So guys, the first promo of FC26 is going to be here this Friday, as well as the full game release. And if you didn't know, the first promo is going to be Cornerstones, which is here. You need to know what to do with your team, what to do with your coins, who to keep, who to sell, all that jazz. So we'll jump into that today. And the first thing I want to look at actually is the Cornerstones promo, because last year the first promo we got was Road to the Knockouts, which I think will be more hyped than this Cornerstones promo. From what I understand, from what EA have said about the power curve, and from what I've seen from the leaks of the Cornerstone promo, it won't be as bigger upgrades as we've seen in the past. And it's of course not a live promo like Road to the Knockout, which means it's probably not as hype. But we are getting the first promo cards of FC26, which always does cause some movement on the market for those meta players. And we'll jump in today to what I think is going to happen with different price ranges of players, so that upper meta and then those lower rated players as well. If you didn't know, Cornerstones is basically those players who are the cornerstone of their team. None of these stats are official. None of these cards are even official. At the time of recording, we have no leaks on the players, but I'm sure we'll start to see them now in the up and coming days leading up to Friday. But we've got Van Dijk, Carvajal, Son, Romero, players like that who are the cornerstone of the team. They might have been there for a while, or they're a leader in the team. So I think, for example, Bruno Fernandes might get one of these cards. And I think it's just going to be a normal stat boost. I've not seen too much on the actual upgrade themselves. I think it will just be a normal stats and playstyle boost. Of course, we'll have to see, and that will affect the meta of it as well. But it's not only this, there is also a huge change this year to rewards of division rivals, which of course we're getting the first division rivals rewards this morning UK time on Thursday, which normally causes huge like market movements on the market early game. But if we just jump over into the division rivals screen now, and you will see this is the reward upgrade for getting Division 5, the upgraded points. So you get 30 points, you get the Division 5 rewards. And as you can see, compared to last year, these have had a huge nerf, especially tradable wise. So here you get a 1 of 3 80 rare gold players pick, 2 1 of 3 83 plus but untradeable picks. You then get a 10 times 75 untradeable, a mega pack untradeable, and 8,000 coins. So if we're being really honest, boys, tradable rewards here, we're probably getting what? Maybe 10,000 coins, not even 8, 9, 10,000 coins of tradable coins in Division 5. If we look at some of the other like divisions as well, if you do get into Division 4, which a lot of people have got to as well, and you take a look at the reward upgrade, it is not much more at all. You get an extra 83 rare gold pack, I believe, untradeable, but the player pick is just 1 rating more, and it's 1,000 coins more. So again, unless you hit something big, you're probably just looking at 10,000 coins tradable reward, which I think will mean the market will move slightly differently to how it did last year at Rivals Rewards, and I'll jump into that in a second. We're going to go over onto FUTBin, where we can take a look at some of the cards last year and how they reacted to the market. So we just jump over onto FUTBin now and take a look at, this is FC25 players and how they moved at the start of the game. We have got Theo Hernandez, who obviously last year, one of the most meta cards in the entire game just throughout. And I wanted to take a look at some of the different levels of meta of what happened to the cards last year to get a gauge for what's going to happen this year, who's going to go up in price, who's going to go down, all sorts like that. So Theo Hernandez, if we look, this is when the game comes out and he's actually in Team of the Week. So he's pretty much max price capped at 300k because he wasn't on the market. He was in Team of the Week. But then here, this Friday, is that Road to the Knockout promo. And if we look what happens, he starts to spike right up in price because he's top-end meta and people want to get him in that team for the first sort of FUT Champs. And obviously, it's the full game release as well. So we're getting a lot more people on the game and getting coins into their team. So we see a big spike from 300k all the way up to 430k by next Tuesday, or the 1st of October. And if we have a look at Saliba as well, Saliba has a similar pattern where game comes out and web app comes out. We hit this first Friday here, where we get the 27th, and he's 211k. And after the first Champs weekend, he goes up to 245k. And this happens every year with the top end meta. As more and more people get enough coins to afford them in their team, they start looking for those top end players like Saliba, like Theo Hernandez. However, with the Rivals Rewards this year and the slower power curve that EA has said they're trying to introduce, it will be interesting to see if we do see a bigger rise on these top end players, because obviously less coins in the games mean less people can afford this card. So the demand's not actually as high as it was in previous years, which I think is where these next couple players feed into it. If we take a look at this Chiesa here, he again was really, really popular last year. And if we take a look at his graph again, we go to, I think, Friday the 27th here. This is when the first promo was out and he's 127k. And then we look at that first Champs weekend and he jumps right up to 147 as well. And he was not as meta as maybe Saliba or Teo Hernandez, but was very sought after and lower rated. And I think cards like this Chiesa could be absolutely amazing this week, because with the lower rivals rewards, these lower rated, which normally in previous years get packed more, so we don't see as big of a rise on them, because the rewards, and especially the tradable rewards, aren't actually as good. Players like Chiesa, I think, could do really, really well. And I want to jump over as well to Mickey van der Ven, as Mickey van der Ven is definitely an interesting one. If I show you what happened with Mickey van der Ven, he hit here on Friday the 27th at 47k, and then he jumped right up into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because he actually went out of pack team of the week. But if you look onto Saturday, he's actually not had that big of a rise. He was only 45k. He then goes into team of the week out of packs, so goes up in price for that reason. But he was staying the same price, and the reason that was is because he was 82 rated, so he got packed a lot more. So we didn't see that dramatic rise that Chiesa, Saliba, and Teo Hernandez got. But with this year, the lower rewards and the lower power curve, I do wonder whether cards like this that are lower rated, like 82 rated, will actually see a bigger jump, because they're not getting packed as much. So there's that. They've got like an extra week or two to rise, where normally they crash quite early on. And another example of it from last year was this Marcus Rashford card again, where if we have a look, it's a little bit more obvious on this graph. 26k, that's what he was just there when the game full release comes out, and Road to the Knockout does drop. And unlike the other cards we've seen, he falls right off a cliff because he's 81 rated, way easier to pack, and people were sort of upgrading past Rashford at this time into other cards in the team, actually like this Chiesa, obviously on the other wing, or I guess he could play left wing as well. But my theory here, and we'll have to see how this plays out, of course, is with rivals, cards like this Rashford, who were already decently like held in value, so not discard cards, cards who do already have a little bit of demand and value, could possibly hold their value a little bit more in this first week, where normally they would drop off a cliff. So we'll obviously have to wait and see how rival reward pays out and what the pack weight is from it. But I would actually keep an eye on this for the first week, because it'll be interesting to see if this trend would then continue for the rest of the year. So normally the advice would be for these players in years gone by would be to sell them and get them out of your team before that Friday promo comes, because the lower rated cards always crash in that first week after the full game comes out, and people are starting to upgrade past them in their teams. But I do think this year you do have a chance, if you're looking to keep these cards in your team, of not needing to sell them to get out of them and lose your coins, as we could see with the nerfed rivals rewards and the nerfed FUT Champs rewards as well, by the way. We could definitely see a scenario where this Marcus Rashford here doesn't drop off a cliff like he did in previous years. And another one to look out for is obviously the cards themselves that are going out of packs. So if we jump over into this Julian Alvarez graph, Julian Alvarez did get a road to the knockout last year. So what we'll see with him, and you'll see with other cards that get a cornerstone, is when the Friday does drop on the 27th, this Julian Alvarez card got a nice big rise up until he came back in packs the next week, and then obviously fell off a cliff. So if you look here, he was 25k on the Thursday, and then by the Monday, he's 35k, when otherwise this card might have dropped off a cliff. So if your card that maybe you've got in your team, you see is leaked to be out of packs, you don't need to worry about that. You can keep that in your team, and I'll probably make a little bit of coins on it as well. So just a quick one for cards going out of packs, but obviously that happens all year round, and with every promo just in general, with cards going out of packs. But obviously this was last year, this is the FC25 cards. So how do I think this will affect the FC26 players? If we jump over to the FC26 popular players and we just refresh to get like the most updated popular list, you'll see the cards that everyone's looking at here. We first got this Demone card, who just feels like she's the meta at the minute. She's getting called by a lot of pros and a lot of people in general, so she's risen from 30k to something ridiculous like 80 or 90k. And it is a trend we've seen so far this year, where the only real market movements we've seen in terms of big swings on players has come from updates in the meta, so people trying to find what's meta very early on. So there's obviously not been too much content, with the game only being out a couple days, nearly a week. So most of the movements we're seeing is from the meta, which is as well why you're seeing these trickster players going extinct. So we've got Dabinia here. I think Cherky had a slight rise before. I think he's fell down a little bit. He was sitting at around 3.5, 4k. He's maybe come down, because if you've not seen, there's a new glitch basically you can do, where using the trickster flick and then into an acrobat volley, you can pretty much score all your chances. So hopefully that gets fixed. So people are investing in them players to try and get that meta in the team and score some cheap goals. But also what I want to take a look at is some of the other cards that are popular. For example, this Hugo Ekitike. If we look at him in another tab, he's currently sat at 21k. He's a really good card in game. And due to him being lower rated and not as meta as some of the other Prem strikers, or not as expensive as players like Marmoush, this is one that I would have predicted in previous years to fall off a cliff when the first promo came out and go right down to 10, 12,000 coins. However, what I think you will see a slight drop in this card on Thursday morning as Rival Rewards comes out and he gets packed and put onto the market. However, I don't think the drop will be that big this year, with the rewards not being as OP and as big and tradable as they were in previous years, like last year. And I think what you will see is a nice rise on a card like Ekatike into Friday and into Friday morning when people are buying the champs team. And I think as well, he will definitely drop as Fridays the promo comes out at 6 p.m. UK. I think he'll hold a little bit of value. We'll have to go and see how the champs reward pays out as well, because that's what dictates the card prices over the weekend. But in my opinion, you are much safer this year holding cards like Ekatike than in previous years. So that's not to say he won't drop off and go below 20k. I don't think he will half in value to 10k like he would have possibly in previous years. The cards that I'm going to be looking to invest in on the Thursday when Rivals drops is these mid-range cards like Marmoush, who are sort of not the top-end meta, but have definitely got a bit of value behind them. He's just that level above Ekatike, where he's coming in at 46k. He's 84 rated, which I think 84 rated is sort of that perfect sweet spot where you'll see him getting packed out of the Rivals tradable rewards. He might have a slight dip in the morning. However, due to his rarity and due to him being 46,000 coins and not much cheaper, you will see him hold that value a lot better, I think, into Friday. So he's one of the players I'm going to be looking at Thursday morning to try and get a flip on going into that first FUT Champs weekend as people are looking to build their team and trying to find maybe another example here of a player in a similar category. We could have a look at Militao. He's actually leaked to be in Team of the Week this week, which is why he's on the popular page. This Kanate is another really good example. 86 rated, so he's one that I don't see actually having too big of a drop on the morning of Rivals. We'll have to see, of course, but I don't see him having too big of a drop. But I do think he's one that will rise really nicely this year into the weekend, because what you've got to remember as well is people are only going to have as many coins as they get from Rival Rewards, so they're not going to be getting 100,000 coins, 50,000 coins even. You're looking at closer to 10. So people are going to only be upgrading 1 or 2 players in their team max. So I think this is the sort of sweet spot of the card you'll see hold value going into Cornerstones and going into the weekend. Jumping into what I've been trading recently, boys, is I've actually been doing chemistry style trading. I'm not looking too much at the minute of fluctuations, as my coin balance is not as high as I'd like to look at fluctuations. I'm just trying to build up as many coins as possible before that Rivals rewards dropped. So I'm just doing some Anchor Chem style trading, which if you want, leave a like on the video and I can do a tutorial on the Anchor Chem style trading or just chemistry style trading in general. This has made me about 200,000 coins from scratch at the minute. We've not packed anyone tradable. We've just kind of made 200,000 coins from scratch in what is basically a day or two of trading. So not too shabby at all. Trying to build my coins up really for that first Rivals drop. And then, like I say, if Marmoush is sitting at 50k and I can get 200,000 coins Thursday morning, I'd look to sort of invest in 4 of those Marmoushes, depending on what we see happen with his price, or maybe the Kanates like I showed earlier. So I'm not looking at fluctuations too much at the moment, as like I say, I think most of it's just coming from people dictating the meta at the minute, and I'm not too keen to jump in on that right now. And guys, if we just jump over to how the general market is actually moving, we can go over to the FUTBin Index 100 here, which you can see on the Index 100 on FUTBin, which is just sort of a general gauge of how the market's moving. It's quite stagnant at the minute. Like I said, I'm not looking too much at the fluctuations. Some cards are moving nicely, although it's pretty stagnant. But what I would be prepared for is if we do get a loading screen in the coming days for Cornerstones, I'm almost certain you'll see a slight market crash or more just panic. I don't think the dips will be too dramatic, but I'd look out for it. If you're holding a lot of coins in your teams at the minute, which I know a lot of you guys are, is if we get a loading screen, just look out for that panic that will inevitably come. My advice in terms of keeping and selling your players, if that panic does come, is the higher end, more meta your card is, the more likely I'd be to keep that card and not worry too much about the panic and the selling off of that card. And then for those few of you as well who have got a lot of coins and are looking at these cards like icons, this is where you're starting to see steady rises as more people are getting coins on the game, like we just said. And again, like I said, with the nerfed Rival rewards and Champs rewards, I think you'll see higher end card like icons and heroes this year rise ever so steadily for the first couple of weeks, where in previous years, some of the lower end icons only rose for the first week or two before then starting to stagnate and fall off with the rest of the power curve. I think this year they have a more potential to rise for a little bit longer. So you should be able to hold them. If you're someone who's using icons or heroes in your team at the minute, you should be able to hold them a little bit longer. So guys, let me know down below. Comment if you are hyped for Cornerstones and the full release of FC 26. I know I am, but I also always think I'll prefer the live Road to the Knockouts promo that'll probably come the week after or possibly 2 weeks after if we do get 2 weeks of Cornerstones. We'll have to see how that pans out with the slower power curve. And also, boys, if you want to see how we started our Road to Glory this year, where we're doing the Road to Zlatan, trying to get Zlatan's new card with no money spent, check out the first episode here, where we got our starter team and started everything off. But, boys, like always, until next time, I'll see you in a bizzle.